So this podcast is all about you, your journey in music, and how you got to where you are now.
Awesome.
So why don't you start off by telling me where you were born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I lived there for about uh, 14 years, and I moved to Abington, which is another town in Massachusetts, for like 2 years. And then I moved to Brockton, which is where I'm currently at.
Right on, right on. And how did you get into music?
So, for a long time, I say a long time, when I was a kid, I was really into cars. Loved
Really?
everything about cars. Yeah, I
Okay.
wanted to be a mechanic. I
What
thought it
type
was
of cars? Like sports
uh
cars?
yeah, like classic Japanese cars. I still am into them today.
Sure.
That's like my pastime. But my cousins, so I lived in a three-family house. It was my brother, my sister, my cousins, my grandmother, grandfather, uncle, three-family home, packed, all
Wow.
of us packed in.
Mhm.
Yeah. And my cousins were local rappers at the time, and they made their beats using PlayStation 2 and this software called Music Maker, which
Really? I don't even remember that on PlayStation 2.
dude, look it up. Music Maker. It's crazy. It's crazy. But basically, like, the program lets you put loops together, and
Okay.
then you could export the loop and then record over it. So that's what they did. And I remember just watching them. I was like 9 years old, just watching them do it over and over and over, to the point where I would sneak in when they were gone to go like put the loops together myself. And it was really fun. So one day my dad had noticed me doing that, and I started a little group with my friends, and I was like, yo, like, I got these beats off of
Yeah.
PlayStation, like, you guys should rap over them. And then over time my dad invested in like a laptop and a space for me to work, and then he ended up taking me to like a professional studio one day, and I was like,
Wow.
wow, this is
What was that
crazy.
like? Yeah.
It was amazing, dude, like seeing all the equipment. But I was really blown away that people lived off of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they
Yeah,
did.
like that was their job.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid, you know what I mean, like
Sure.
firefighters, like
Right.
that
Yeah.
kind of
Like,
stuff.
yeah. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? There's like 7 different career paths that kids choose.
Exactly.
It's
So
probably
when I
not
seen that,
record producer.
nah, not at all. So when I seen that, I was like, wow, this is crazy. So it kind of just, I don't want to say it kind of just happened, but like, I never stopped making music from that point. So
Okay.
it doors opened for me that led me to where I am, today. It's it's amazing, like, how that just sort of just, because for a long time I was like, man, I'm gonna be a mechanic, but nope,
Sure.
didn't happen.
Wow. How did you get into the studio that time with your dad? Did he just like book studio time just to take you there to show you
He
what it's all
knew
about?
he knew local rappers too.
Okay.
And he was, so my dad is a plumber, and he was really close with this guy whose house he worked with on all the time. And he happened to just manage artists, and he was like, my dad was like, yo, my son is like into music, just let him come to the studio with y'all.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up making beats for them. Like, I was this 16-year-old kid, like,
Really?
yeah, making beats for these dudes that were just like in Boston, you know what I mean? So we formed a relationship there, and that's really where I learned. That was like my intro to like studio etiquette, and like,
Mhm.
helping artists curate their sound. I was 16, man, like, these older dudes just like, yo, you gotta
Sure.
gotta go like this on the record. um
Would
and
you
then
just they just like after that first initial meeting with this person and being able to check out just the studio in general, did they just invite you back, or like were you just like, did you just keep coming back like, hey, I want to keep, like almost like a crash internship type deal?
that's what they did. Like, they just kept
Wow.
bringing me back. Yeah, it's crazy. It was crazy. So
So you get to work
eventually,
with a bunch of different artists, like you were helping produce beats for like local rappers.
yeah, yep. Eventually I got a setup in my own house.
Okay.
And at the time, still though, I'm not recording myself. I'm not writing music. I'm just making beats and recording other people. So I ended up getting a little setup in my house, and I was recording my friends in high school. This is like around high school.
Hmm.
I was recording them. And then one day I was just like, you know what? Like, I have this really cool song idea. Let me just step behind the booth and record myself. And I
Okay.
ended up doing that, and it didn't sound terrible. So I was like, you know what, maybe let me just work on it a little bit. So for 2 years, I was on YouTube Academy, as I like to call it, and
Sure.
practiced vocal warm-ups, vocal lessons, all type of things that I can, come up with to help me progress my voice. And I launched my artist career in 2016 as Leo the Kind.
Wow. When did you get like the courage to put your stuff online and really pursue the artist thing? Just after that one time being like, you know what, I have this song idea.
Yeah, I mean, I was making music and putting it out before online under a different name, Imaginate, and
Okay.
I did electronic dance music, and I did that for a while,
But
and
no vocals or lyrics.
nah, nothing.
Got it. Okay.
So it just like I just always wanted to sing and
Uh-huh.
like write my own stuff, but I had to just take a shot. Like I just didn't know what to expect, honestly.
Sure.
So I remember though, I put a cover out on my Facebook, and a lot of people loved it. It was of Hotline Bling by
Okay.
Drake, and I just like flipped it. I put guitars over it, and people loved it. So I was just like, man, let me just start putting music out under this
Uh-huh.
name.
How did you do the guitars? Do you play guitar also?
Yeah, during that time, around like 2016, I picked up guitar, and I was on YouTube as well, doing like little things that I could find. And yeah, just I already knew how to record, so I was like,
Sure.
all I need is a guitar. And so I just plugged that in, and yeah, I learned how to. My first song that I released was "Pieces of a Puzzle" officially, and the song was the only three chords I knew on the guitar.
Oh,
That's
really?
Yeah,
And you made
and
the
it did
song.
really
That's
well.
a great
Yeah,
song. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that was the first one you wrote, but that was the first thing you put up online.
yeah. As Leo the Khan, yep, that was the first thing.
Okay. Wow. And then that song did well. Like it started attracting the attention of people, or like
Yeah.
how did you start seeing
Well,
those numbers?
so it's funny because like I used Submit Hub, and
Okay.
yeah, I put it out to so many different labels and blogs and stuff,
Sure.
and like nobody got back to me, but this one dude on YouTube that I paid $60 to upload it, it did like 500,000 views, and I was like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Because you paid him to kind of use his playlist channel or something.
Right. I asked him to like just like it's $60, like just upload this. And he was like, actually, I really like the song. So yeah, I'm gonna upload it. And that's how the streams built up. And like that's how I got my official Spotify page, and like people started to notice me and stuff from that one shot.
Wow. That's amazing. Was it hard to follow it? Like, I mean, or was it like a nervous thing? Like, okay, well, I've got this one, song. The first thing I did is doing awesome. Like, am I going to be able to follow that? Was that
It
ever a
was
doubt in your mind?
At this point, not really, because
Okay.
I still didn't know what I was doing. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like I was
Yeah.
just like, I'll just put music out. Like I didn't have a plan. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, I'll just put music out, and like people just want to hear me. So I just kept coming up with records on my own, and like shelling them out, and doing the same route, Submit Hub, talking to blogs. So then I got a couple of write-ups from some people in Boston as well. Like, there's a couple people out here that were tied to Lyrical Lemonade that got me my first spot with them, and then like someone else tied to Ear Milk that got me on Ear
Oh,
Milk,
sure.
and like yeah, those guys really helped out a lot. So I used all the assets that were available to me that I could to get the music out, and I was just doing what I knew, what I knew how to do.
Hmm. And from there, like once you started, getting some attention and traction, did you play live, or was it still just recording and putting music out, recording and putting music out?
So at the same time, when I debuted Leo the Kind, there was a local group out here in Brockton. They're actually called the Sound Lab, and what they do is they welcome artists to come through and like play their own music and like get noticed by other artists so that they could all collectively work together.
Hmm.
So what happened was I would go there like every couple of weeks and play them some new music, and I ended up finding friends, and we all banded together and made connections with local venues and things like that, and started to play live. Like we just started to organize like our own like live shows. And like at first not many people came out, of course, nobody knows who we are. But then like as we kept doing it, that allowed me to play live. So I ended up playing live at like the Middle East, which is like a huge like venue in Boston, and then a couple of other places. So I got the live exposure as well at the same time.
Wow, that's incredible. And so
Mhm.
you're building on both sides, the fan base on the streets, and then of course online.
Yep, yep.
What was the next little victory you had that kind of took you to the next step?
So I knew. I go to the same church as Bassman, and Bassman is the guy who introduced me to Swag. So
Oh, okay.
Bassman and Swag, they produce for her and a bunch of other people,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done so many things. And for a while, like Bassman was kind of like watching me do my thing on social media and like come up with the content and stuff. And he was like, you know what, man, like you got to come out to LA one time with us and meet Swag and the gang and all this stuff. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But I was broke. I didn't have any money. So man, I sold my PS4 to get the plane ticket to go meet them out in LA. And what had happened was
Wow.
they didn't tell me this, but it was BET weekend, like all whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and Sony was having this massive session. Like Trey Songz was there, Usher was there, all these huge artists. And I didn't know until I got there.
Okay.
So I get there, and like the first person I meet is like JoJo. And I was like, oh, so
What?
this is what we're doing now.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Was that your
so,
first time ever in LA?
yeah, my first
So
time
you're
in
just
LA.
like, okay, this is just like LA. I just walk out and then like I'm at a
Yeah.
party with JoJo.
Yeah, like I go to the studio. The first plaque I see is it's like a Michael Jackson plaque, and I'm like, all right, so this is what we're doing. Like
Like, damn.
y'all just threw me out
Wow.
here. So I go meet them, and I have the most amazing like 4 days, 3 or 4 days I've ever had, like just studio session after studio session. And I end up writing hooks, making beats, just for like all these people that I've never met before, but they're all prolific writers and producers and stuff. So to me, that was the ultimate, like, okay, there's no way that I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like after
Ultimate
just being able
validation
to,
for you.
yeah, to just hang with these guys, like these huge Grammy winning artists and
Mhm.
producers. So I'm just like, all right, so this is it. Like I gotta, and then from that moment on, like I think a week after I signed with Swag, and we just
Wow.
started working together. Yeah.
Wow. So it was almost like selling that PS4, taking that trip that gave you kind of like the seat at the table, right? Like now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, show me what you can do. And obviously you did what
Yeah.
you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was so nervous, man, because I just never, I think what helped though was not knowing who people are. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure. Like if you're like, oh, this person's wrote all these hits, and like then maybe you're being a little bit more intimidated than like, oh, I'm
right.
just in a room with other like-minded individuals.
Exactly. So I didn't know. I mean, I knew who Swag was, and like obviously Bassman, but like most people, I was like, I don't know who these guys are. So let me just like do my thing. And
Sure.
I ended up doing what I could, and just like then after
Filling
going
in.
home and then realizing who I was in the room with, I was like, wow. It's like, so you mean to tell me Usher was in the next room and like they just like yeah,
Oh,
it was sick.
wow. That is
Yeah.
so cool. So you sign with Swag and his
Yep.
you sign
Progressive
with,
Music Group.
yeah,
Yep.
that which was I'm sure a big moment for you.
Yeah, it was massive. It was I just didn't even think that could happen. Like how quick it all happened, for me was amazing. And I think like, this saying that I always say, a lot can happen in a year. And
Hmm.
that was within like 6 months, you know what I mean? So from that point on, we've just been like releasing music. I've still been coming up with content. I'm building up my TikTok, which is hilarious. I think that's one of the funniest platform out right now. Um, yeah, and really excited to put out even more stuff. Like we just dropped this song called 24s.
Uh-huh.
And we got a lot more stuff coming this year.
That's amazing. Well, I'm curious to see if your cousins were envious of you going to LA and you know brushing shoulders with all these celebrities and these big name people.
They are quite supportive. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I think that they are waiting for that. And I promised them, like, so they're also into cars.
Okay.
So they don't know, but like eventually when I get the bread, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be like, all right, here's the nice car that you always wanted and
Here's
this
the
and that.
skyline.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Here's your skyline. Um, yeah, they're very supportive. Like we talk on Facebook, you know, and they always see me posting my accolades. Like last year I won a Boston Music Award for best
Wow.
new pop artist. Yeah, it was
That
pretty
must have
sick.
been cool.
Yeah, it was that was another validation thing for me too, man, because
Sure.
like people always talk about like the scene in Boston, how like people don't support each other, blah 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 type thing.
Mhm.
And I think people do. It's just it's not an LA, you know what I mean? It's different. It's different than that, or like Atlanta. But you know, I even found myself in that place where I was just like, man, like I don't feel recognized, this and that. And I win a Boston Music Award. And I was just like, all right, let me just throw that way of thinking out the window because obviously
Sure.
somebody's seeing me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And to
Yep.
get that, yeah, that sort of like you said, validation from you where you grew up. I mean, that's
Yeah.
huge.
It's huge, man. And I remember like, so one of the shows that I played, it was right on the corner of one of my old bus stops. And I think when I pulled up to the venue, I didn't know that's where it was. But when we pulled up there, I had to sit there for like 10 minutes, like, dude, I used to like take the bus right here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you guys
Wow.
understand. Like, this is like my old bus stop, and just to like perform a show there and like kill it was crazy, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I know you released a project last year, The
Yeah.
Ugly.
Yes.
Tell me where that was 2020. So where were you like and what were you up to like right before the pandemic hit?
I
Or
was
did that
getting
record
ready.
or was that record ready?
It was like halfway ready.
Okay.
But I also had another EP that we were finishing up. But I think the pandemic kind of I honestly think for everybody, but the pandemic made us think differently about releasing and like how can we get people to notice Leo more. And I think that EP is probably one of the best things that I've done in the last year, because I even go back and listen to it. Like sonically, it's so good. And like I was in a very experimental time. Um, and creating those records with swag and like bassman, but also having like excuse me, legends like Frank Romano on it, who's like a crazy guitar player, and has been on so many hit records. Like I can't even begin to name them. Just to have his help and like all these other people collab on this EP was just mind blowing for me. So you know, we literally put our foot into that project, and to see people like still finding it today is like really cool. And I think that's gonna happen for a little while. They're gonna
Sure.
be like, dude, this EP is crazy. And I'm like, yeah. I ended up performing the whole EP for the So Far show, um, which was awesome. And that was during the pandemic. I
Was it
had
like a
gotten,
virtual thing?
yeah, I got I know a guy who in Boston who is the head of an auto car club.
Uh-huh.
So really nice vintage cars. And we basically filled up this parking lot with vintage cars, and I performed in the middle of them the whole
Wow.
EP. Yeah, it's sick.
That's cool. I mean, to be able to play the whole record, I mean, that must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, you know, it's gonna feel better when there's a crowd.
Real people there.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, like I think that's what I'm mostly looking forward to, and that's where I've been at since. You know what I mean? It's just like
Mhm.
I'm making all this great music, but like people are interacting with it, you know, online, and sometimes someone will see me on the street, but like to be able to do this in front of a crowd is going to be incredible, man. And I know that you know a lot of other artists are feeling the same thing. And I mean, there was a ton of projects that dropped last year that not a lot of
Mhm.
people got to tour. So I
Sure.
just can't I can't even wait until like tour like really opens up again and people are just like, man, I can finally like play this
Oh
out.
yeah,
You know
it's
what I
gonna be
mean?
emotional, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's interesting because I've talked to a few artists about this and just like how much we took like live music for granted. So it's like sort of like
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this, like, oh, Leo the Kind's coming through. Yeah, well, he came through like 3 months ago. It's cool. He'll be back. So, I'll be able to catch him next time. Or like,
Exactly.
it's a Wednesday. Like, do I really want to, like, I got work in the like it's like those things I think
Yep.
people are gonna be like, I don't care if I have to wake up at 6. Like, I'm
Right.
going, like,
We're all going.
is there a chance that this might somehow get shut down at some point? And, it's like one of those things like
Absolutely.
everyone's going to be out and wanting to be there. And I just feel like the energy at these shows are going to be
Different.
crazy
Yep.
for a while,
For a while. And I think that's the most exciting part as an artist, but also as a concert goer. You know what I mean? Like I want to see these guys like
Sure.
do their best to go their hardest. Like I want to see that, you know. And like again, it's like we don't really care who's playing because, like you said, like people were playing like every night, every single night. Like it's crazy to just go from being able to access that and then now just being like, all right, well, guess I'm watching
Yeah.
Netflix again or like the newest
Right.
premiere, you know what I mean?
Right. I'm gonna watch another live stream. I mean, which is cool, but it's also like you said. I mean, it was cool. I'm sure super rad to do your EP in full, especially in the setup with all the cars, and I mean
Yeah.
that being your passion also.
Hmm.
But to if just imagine if there was hundreds of people there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's got to be just a totally, like you said, a totally different feeling. But
For sure.
you have a new record coming out, right? And you just released 24s. Tell me about
Yeah.
24s.
So 24s I made probably like 2 months ago. And I found myself in a mental space where like I was going really hard on all my socials and my content, like doing everything that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you kind of like lose focus of what you're doing it for. And for me, 24s is that record where it's like, all right, don't lose focus. Like this is exactly what you're doing it for. And I'm using the 24s, like 24-inch rims as just like,
Right.
you really want this is what you want to like pursue the car stuff that you really want to do and like eventually you will get there type thing, and that's what 24s was for me. But we're also dropping a new project very soon. It's going to be called Land of the Luck. We've been kind of like working on how the rollout is going to go. It's going to be 3 songs. It's going to be really really fire. It's kind of like my me paying homage to the city that I was born in, and the luck because of the Boston, the Celtics.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah,
That's cool.
it's gonna be really dope. Those songs I wrote all 3 of them in like 1 week and did it all in 1 week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Are you still recording and engineering your own songs, or like has that kind of have you had to
yeah.
pass the torch?
It's like so the recording process like never left because that's just my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also went to school for recording Full Sail University for a
Oh,
year.
really? Okay.
Yeah. And when was that? 2014 or 2015, I went for a year to learn how to record professionally. So if I was ever in a studio, like a professional studio setting, but they also taught me a lot that I could take home to the home studio. So I still record all my stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but mixing, once it got into the hands of like, so I mixed all my stuff, all the local artist stuff. And, I was one of those people that was like, I'm always going to mix all my stuff. Like, no one's going to touch my stuff.
Right.
Man, I got my, I got my stems into the hand of a professional mixer. I was like, oh, he got it. Like, he got it. Like, all I got to
Yeah.
do is record. He got it.
Sure. It's
Like,
hard
I'm
though. I
good.
mean, as a
It's hard.
creative, it's hard to like give your baby away, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just so used to doing something one way and trying to like hand that over to somebody else that might not do what you want
Hmm.
it to sound like. But that's
Yeah.
amazing. You're able to to kind of find somebody to take it over.
Luckily the team, you know what I mean, like they knew what was good for me and like what I wanted. We're kind of just always on the same wavelength, which is
Mhm.
a blessing and a half because I know that like not everybody's situation is like that, and I don't take that for granted at all. But you know having them to be like, all right, we're gonna send this off to Mickey or Alonzo, which is the guys that mix my music. Shout out to y'all. They kill it every time, and it's just like it's such a weight taken off, because when I was doing everything by myself, you know what I mean, like mixing was hell. It's just like, oh my gosh, like I have to mix this thing like 5 times. Are you kidding me? And then just have it be sent off, and I'm playing video games and they're sending me mixes like, oh yeah, this is cool. All right, cool. I'm gonna go back to this. So yeah, that's been a huge blessing. But that's what they're doing, man. They're working on Land of the Luck right now. We're working on the rollout. I think it's gonna be really exciting.
I love it. I love it. And you said you wrote the songs real quick.
Yeah, in a week.
Okay.
It was just,
wow.
Sometimes I get into these zones, man, where I'm writing, and I kind of picked this up during the pandemic. I just get into these like headspaces where I was just like, bro, I just got to write this track today, like all the way through. I have to. And sometimes it's multiple tracks. Sometimes it's 3 in a week. And it's gotten to the point where I'd be afraid to send Swag and Bassman more music, because like I just recorded a song yesterday, and I'm like, man, I just recorded another song. Like I'm gonna send it to them, but like I don't want them to think like
overwhelm them.
Yeah, but sometimes I just get in the zone, man. And I think that once, like post pandemic, and once I'm in the studio again with writers and stuff, like that's just gonna be so awesome, and just be like, yo, let's come up with like 8 records today.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it looks like there's some light at the end here coming soon enough, with festivals being announced and people announcing tours. So hopefully those sessions will be back sooner than later. So
hopefully, man. Hopefully.
Well, I can't wait to hear the new record. Do you have an idea? Oh, you have you guys are in the midst of figuring out the rollout plan for it.
Yeah, I think June, but yeah, June possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I can't wait. Thank you so much, Leo, for doing this too. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Oh man. I have one more question before I let you go.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Don't be afraid to do what you want to do on the track. I've sat down in the studio for so long, overcomplicating like the recording process. If you feel like you should say this or that, do it. If you feel like the melody should be this or that, do it. I promise you, like, it will work out for you. I think, like, for me, that was a big hiccup for me, where I was just like, no, I got to say it like this, or they won't. Now I got to make sure I'm pronouncing it this way, or they won't. Forget all that. Do exactly how you want to do it, how you hear it, your vision, and someone will come along and invest in that vision.